The elevator doors closed with a soft chime as Ethan Brooks lowered his head and tightened his grip on the tiny pink backpack hanging from his shoulder. Just 30 minutes earlier, he had walked into the headquarters of Hawthorne Industries hoping to secure the job that could save his struggling family. Instead, he walked out believing he had failed the most important interview of his life. With only $23 left in his bank account, overdue rent, and a 7-year-old daughter waiting at school, Ethan forced himself to smile despite the crushing disappointment. As he stepped onto the busy sidewalk, he whispered, "I'm sorry, sweetheart. Daddy tried." But before he could disappear into the crowd, the revolving glass doors suddenly burst open. Employees froze in shock as the company's powerful CEO, who had never chased after any applicant in 25 years, came running down the steps, calling Ethan's name at the top of his lungs. Hundreds of people stopped to watch. Cameras turned. Traffic slowed. No one understood why one of the richest executives in the country was chasing a man who had just failed an interview. The answer would leave the entire city speechless. Ethan Brooks had never imagined his life would change so dramatically in just a few years. Once a respected mechanical engineer, he had built machines that powered factories across the country. But when his wife, Sarah, was diagnosed with an aggressive illness, everything else became secondary. Ethan sold his motorcycle, emptied his savings, and even mortgaged the small house they loved to pay for treatments that insurance refused to cover. Sarah fought with incredible courage, always reminding Ethan to smile for their daughter, Lily. Yet despite every effort, she passed away quietly one spring morning, leaving Ethan alone to raise their little girl. Lily was only 7 years old. She didn't fully understand why her mother never came home. Every night she would leave one side of the dinner table empty, just in case mommy comes back. Ethan's heart broke every single time. Determined to give Lily the life Sarah had dreamed of, Ethan accepted temporary jobs wherever he could find them. He repaired appliances, delivered groceries, fixed old cars, and even worked overnight shifts unloading trucks. None of those jobs offered stability. Eventually, the bills became impossible to ignore. Rent notices piled up. Electricity warnings arrived weekly. The refrigerator became emptier each month. Still, Ethan refused to let Lily see his fear. Every evening he helped with homework, cooked simple meals, and read bedtime stories with the same enthusiasm as before. One rainy night Lily quietly asked, "Daddy, are we poor?" Ethan smiled gently. "No, sweetheart. What are we then? We're rich in something money can't buy." She tilted her head. "What?" "Each other." A month later Ethan received an email. Hawthorne Industries, the country's largest engineering company, wanted to interview him for senior operations manager. The salary would solve nearly every financial problem. Lily hugged him tightly. "I know you'll get it." Ethan smiled. "I hope you're right." The night before the interview he carefully ironed the only suit he still owned. It had been repaired twice. One sleeve had faded slightly. But it was clean. Professional. Respectable. On interview day, Ethan dropped Lily at school before taking 2 buses to the towering glass headquarters. The lobby shimmered with polished marble floors and enormous crystal chandeliers. Dozens of applicants waited confidently. Some carried expensive briefcases. Others discussed prestigious universities. Ethan quietly reviewed his notes while holding Sarah's wedding ring inside his pocket, a silent reminder of the promise he had made to never give up. The interview panel consisted of senior executives and department heads. Everything started well. Ethan answered technical questions with confidence. His experience impressed several interviewers. Then came the final question. If selected, one executive asked, "How flexible are you regarding overtime and international travel?" Ethan hesitated. "I can absolutely work hard," he replied honestly. "But I need enough notice to arrange care for my daughter. She's my first responsibility." Several executives exchanged skeptical looks. One quietly wrote something on his evaluation sheet. The atmosphere changed immediately. Within minutes the interview ended. The polite smiles disappeared. Walking toward the elevator, Ethan already knew. He hadn't been chosen. He blamed no one. Business needed availability. His daughter needed her father. He would always choose Lily. From the observation room above the conference hall, CEO Jonathan Hawthorne had watched the entire interview. Most candidates tried to say whatever the panel wanted to hear. Ethan had done something different. He had told the truth. Jonathan remembered his own childhood. His father had built a billion-dollar company but missed birthdays, graduations, and family dinners. Money had filled the house. Love had not. Watching Ethan refuse to compromise his daughter's well-being awakened memories Jonathan had buried for decades. When he saw Ethan leave the building with quiet dignity instead of anger, he made an immediate decision. Ignoring stunned executives, Jonathan rushed out of the boardroom. He sprinted through the lobby. Receptionists stared. Security guards stepped aside. Employees watched in disbelief. Outside, Jonathan called. "Mr. Brooks." Ethan turned slowly. The CEO stood several steps away, breathing heavily. "I think you're leaving too soon." Jonathan extended his hand. "You didn't fail." Ethan looked confused. "The panel believes your family responsibilities make you unavailable." Jonathan smiled. "I believe they prove you're exactly the leader this company needs." Executives gathered behind the CEO. Reporters passing nearby began filming. Jonathan continued. "A person who protects his family with that level of commitment will protect his team the same way." Then he announced something unprecedented. "I'm offering you the position." The executives looked stunned. Jonathan wasn't finished. "We're also introducing flexible scheduling, emergency family leave, and childcare support for every employee." The board protested. Jonathan remained firm. "If our company only succeeds by forcing parents to choose between work and family, then we've already failed." The announcement spread across national news within hours. Employees applauded. Parents celebrated. Other corporations soon adopted similar family-friendly policies. Months passed. Ethan transformed the operations department through honesty, teamwork, and respect. Productivity increased. Employee turnover dropped dramatically. People worked harder because they felt valued. One afternoon Lily visited the office. Jonathan personally welcomed her. She looked around the enormous headquarters with wide eyes. "So this is where Daddy works?" Jonathan smiled. "It is." She reached into her backpack and handed him a small crayon drawing. It showed Ethan holding her hand beneath a bright yellow sun. Across the top she had written, "Thank you for believing in my daddy." Jonathan framed the drawing and hung it behind his desk, where visitors often asked about it. He always answered the same way. "That picture reminds me that the best hiring decision I ever made wasn't based on a resume. It was based on character." 5 years later Hawthorne Industries became one of the country's most admired companies, not just for profits, but for the way it treated people. Parents no longer feared choosing family over work. Employees stayed because they felt respected. Jonathan often invited new managers to hear Ethan's story. Standing before each new leadership class, Ethan would say, "I thought I walked away from the opportunity of a lifetime." He smiled toward Lily, now proudly sitting in the front row. But sometimes rejection isn't the end of your story. Sometimes it's the moment someone finally sees who you truly are. The audience always rose to their feet in applause. Because they understood something that every great leader eventually learns. Skills can build successful companies. But compassion builds unforgettable legacies. And sometimes the interview that feels like your greatest failure becomes the first chapter of your greatest victory.